Hey everyone, this is Gia Felder with Gia Felder Realtor LLC, brokered by Village Premier Collection of Georgia. And I am here today with the lovely Kim Hughes. And we're going to talk a little bit about the process of using a closing attorney that's required here. And of course, Kim is going to talk about that a little bit more. But here with her, she's going to share some information and hope this is valuable to you guys. So Kim, how about you introduce yourself?
Hey, Gia, and for all those watching, I am Kim Hughes. I'm the owner and founder of Hughes Associates, which is a full-service real estate closing firm in Atlanta, Georgia, metro area. And I've been practicing for over 25 years, have my own firm for about 15, actually going on 16, I think it'll be October. And so really just, pretty much enjoy my work. I'm actually not a official Southern peach, although I do like to claim that now. It's been over 20 years, so I think I can do that. But I'm originally from Jersey, went to school in the DMV area. I went to University of Maryland undergrad at College Park, and then finished up law school in American University in DC before transitioning here to Atlanta. So
nice. How many people do you have on your team?
There's actually about 8 of us and still growing. Well, actually a little more than that, because there are some folks that, I contract with on a consistent basis to help us. So I would probably say more like 10 really. But we, and like I said, we're growing because there's different opportunities that are coming. And we're excited about all that's coming down the pike. But yeah,
I'm sure we'll hear about that on one of our VPC.
Yeah.
Meetings on Tuesday, so that'll be awesome.
Yeah, nice. We have a great team. We're really the thing that I love about it is they're all hardworking people that espouse the same values that I do as we're working each file, because each file is not about paper, it's really about people's lives. And so, and agents as well, this is your livelihood, so there's a lot vested in every file that we touch, and we try to treat it as such and take the care and concern that I feel is necessary to be able to properly close a transaction.
Nice. So let's kind of get into it, about having a closing attorney. Why is that important? Why do we need a closing attorney for a real estate transaction, particularly here in Georgia?
Yeah, and well, you kind of stated it. It's required here legally in Georgia, where you have to use a closing attorney for your closing transactions. The ironic thing, which most people don't really think about, but if there is a lender involved, which probably 90% of the transactions I do, there's a lender involved. Although we usually get our business from agents or sometimes even individual buyers, because those are the professionals that we work with on a consistent basis, but it's technically that lender that we represent in the transaction. So it's kind of a little ironic in that way, because most people feel like, oh, we're our closing attorney, and we feel that way too. But at the end of the day, from the legal perspective, we definitely represent the lender in any one of those transactions, which is unique in some other states, because like I told you, I'm from up north. And although I've never practiced there, I've engaged with different attorneys and title companies in that way. I know specifically in New York, there's an attorney required on either side of the process. And so I think because of that too, Gia, I think closings and the nature and culture in which we operate, we all tend to want to close quick, and do tend to close quicker, because when attorneys are involved, and the more attorneys involved in a transaction, that can potentially slow things down a little bit. So we get used to that here in Georgia and get a little spoiled, I think.
So walk us through the process from the day that you get a contract from one of us to just before closing, and then we'll talk about the day of closing. So kind of walk us through that process.
Okay. So when we receive a contract, typically from an agent or it can be from a lender, that sets up our file. You know, I can have somebody say, oh, I'm going to send you a closing and all of that. But until we get that fully executed contract, that's what initiates it for us. So we open a file in our system, and from there, we send out both to the buyer side and the seller side what we call a welcome email. And in that email, it lets them know, well, first of all, they have to answer a series of questions so that we have information about the people that we're working with. And then it also allows us to gather that information and provide information. So in my welcome emails, there's like a video that I do to tell people about wire fraud and to be cautious about, because that's been huge over the last several years. And so I make sure that, you know, I try to let folks know up front exactly how to handle that and to be mindful of that. But the main thing is to welcome them into the process and working with us and to be able to get the gathered information we would need. So for example, on the buyer side, you know, we need contact information, email, all of that, socials, different things like that. On the seller side, we need that same information, but we also need like payoff, mortgage payoff information. If there's a HOA, we need to have their contact information. And these are really just questions. So it's not something that they have to think about. They literally just have to be prompted to answer the questions that we provide. And this is all done through a secure portal. Okay. So that's the initial onset. And then from there, we're getting ready to run title. We usually need a title request from the lender to do so if it is a loan. And we run title. That takes anywhere between these days. We like to say 3 days, but sometimes it can take 5 to get it back. And then we review title, make sure it is clean and does not have any issues. If it has issues, we really try to bring that to the forefront as quickly as possible, because as you and I both know, it can impact the time frame for closing if it's an issue that takes time to clear. And we want to be able to set expectations for both sides. So it's kind of like what I was saying too, you know, people are planning all along while we're doing what we're doing, they're planning to adjust their lives one way or the other. So if there's any thing that we need to do to inform them to, you know, offset that a little bit, or to, you know, where they may have to pivot and do something else temporarily, we need to let them know that as soon as possible. But assuming title is clear, the next stage, we send all that information to the lender so that they can complete their approval process. Once they have that, then they will then submit documentation to us to finalize what we call balance the closing disclosure. And that's the document that actually goes over all the figures and everything that will need it to ultimately confirm what the buyer needs to bring, but also addresses commissions, what the seller will need, and all of that. And so, you know, if all goes well, that all should be happening like no less than a day before closing, so we can submit all of that to the parties so they can at least see what to expect when they come to the table in terms of funds. And then the buyer will have plenty of time to be able to wire their funds needed to close. So all of that sounds real smooth, doesn't it?
I'm glad you brought that up.
Right. I was real impressed.
Perfectly. You said it perfectly.
I'm telling you, look, after my day today, I was like, Kim, now you really sold that real well. Now let's really talk about what happened.
I'll have a question, so you know, for you about that. But let's just talk. So we've gotten there. It's smooth. And so now we're at the day of closing. So what happens that day? How long, you know, is, you know, closing?
Yeah.
What happens that day?
Yep. So we definitely try to start on time. So that's why ideally, if we have everything we need prior to the day before, no less, then we can do that. And that way promptly, you know, bring the provided customer service. Because sometimes when people come, you know, it's kind of like the doctor's office or any other appointment you have, you think, okay, the attorney is all in control of everything, but sometimes it doesn't work that way. Yeah. But assuming they have a proper appointment and we're ready, we start closing. I always say closing, I tell people to plan for 2 hours. We allot for 2 hours. So I don't book beyond I don't have like every closing on the hour. I usually allot 2 hours for the closing with the expectation that really hour 15 is what I like to. That makes me feel like, okay, we're being efficient. I don't like things dragged along, but I also want to give people plenty of time if they need questions or what have you. And so assuming that everything is real smooth, we can pretty much get out of there in about an hour 15, hour 30 minutes.
Yeah.
During that time, the buyers will sign documents. As the attorney, we're required to explain all that to the buyer, but also to the seller side so that they understand. They'll be signing a few documents as well. But there is one part that sometimes there's funding requirements that the lender has. And what that basically means is there's certain documents out of an entire package, closing package, which may range anywhere between 80 to 150 pages, give or take. So you can see it's a real wide span, but there may be certain documents that the lender says, I need to see the warranty deed, the closing disclosure, the note, like a certain set of documents out of that whole package. And so what we do is we try to get those gone over with the borrower first, make sure they understand everything, get those signed, and then submitted, because the closer, which is a position in my office who handles the closing aspect when on the day of closing, will then send those documents to the lender's closing department for their review. And the lenders, sometimes they ask for that because they want to make sure that certain key documents are executed the way, they don't, put it this way, they don't completely trust us, I guess. There's some lenders who don't, but it's, and I get it. I think the more, checks and balances we have, the less post-closing issues, anything like that. However, there are some lenders that don't require that. And as long as, they've approved this closing disclosure and everything's been provided to all the parties, once we sign the whole package, we'll have their funds, which are wired to us, right? Along with the borrower's funds, because without those items, we cannot disperse, right? So we're going to need those two sets of funds. But once we have all that, we disperse and everybody goes on their merry way.
And take pictures
oh yeah, that's a new thing, Gia. Like I've been doing that.
Gotta include that.
I'm telling you. Well, I told you I've been doing this over 25 years. This has just become a thing within, I think, a little less than the last decade, of my career. Like we didn't do that.
And the whole production.
Yeah. We didn't. And so what I tell people is while we're getting copies, do that then. Don't wait till I come back and disperse and get all that done while we're making copies and doing, again, trying to be efficient, but that's a whole thing. And sometimes we as the attorneys have to be included in that, they want everybody who was a part. So we just sit there and smile, try to be models. We got to make sure now on closing, we got to look a certain way always, because you never know whose social media you're going to be posted on. But it's all in fun, and I get it, but it's interesting how things have changed over time.
It is. So in your opinion, what are some of the things that the buyers and sellers can do to just make it easier for you to get through the process and then get to the closing table?
That is such a sweet question, because what I heard you say is, how do they make it easier for you, meaning my office? That's really a sweet question. Most people don't care. They just want what they want when they want it.
Yes.
So the reason why I say that is what I have learned over the years is, and again, doing this for a long time, I know all the issues that can come up. So what we try to do in a perfect world, but it is something that's a part of what we think on a daily basis, how do we get ahead of the curve so that people don't feel like this, whatever it is. And we're not perfect. I'll admit that we're not perfect. Things happen, and people don't understand this. I would love them to just understand, charge it to our head and not our heart. But when we're dealing with multiple files, like on any given month, but even on, closing day. So, and just because closings occur, we still have loans and closings that we're processing, getting ready to go to the table. And so, as I said, there's people involved in all of that. And this is a very heavy emotional process, because a lot of times people are either selling or purchasing their greatest asset. So there's a lot of money involved and a lot of time and effort for everybody involved. So when you say make it easier, what I try to look at it is how can we make it easier for the agents? But I think it in turn comes with us. So making it easier is trying to, again, set proper expectations. Now, whether or not they want to receive that or not, as long as we're giving it, I don't like, people, well, what's going on? And well, there's title issues. Well, no, we need to explain what title issues are going on, explain to people, because different title issues have different impact, right? Different turnaround times and things like that. So we try to really help agents and their clients understand that, because maybe not so much for you all as agents, although at the same time, you may not understand fully how everything, impacts. So, but also their clients, they definitely don't do this every day. You all do it on a daily basis, but you don't see this side. So we just try to understand that and appreciate that, people don't do this every day. So we've got to let them know so they have clarity. So if there is a delay, they may not like it, but at least somebody has explained to them the how and the why, of what's occurring. But making it easier on us, I think if just people, just can be a little more kind sometimes. But I'm sure you all see it as agents on your side. You deal with some difficult clients, and it's just people. So whenever you're in the people business, you just got to put your pants on, your big girl, big boy pants on, and do the best you can. So at least in your heart, look, I've done everything I can to serve this. And when mistakes are made or miscommunication or something happens, try to fix it. Try to, get back in the game and help people understand.